Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at our enhanced risk for today, as well as day 3 and day 4 enhanced risks as well. I won't be looking too much at the day 2 outlook. It's just a slightly higher chances of wind damage and hail, so slight tornado risk as well, but nothing too well defined at the moment. Might update later, but I'll probably just post a community post for that if that becomes the case. For day 1 outlook is basically a big old 5% and a pretty big 2% marginal risk for tornadoes, as well as a specific enhanced risk wind damage here, hatch wind damage as well. So basically a little bit of a squall line that can be very powerful, as well as a pretty big hatch risk for hail here across very large amount area. Look at the forecast, the rat model, 500 millibar level. See a pretty well defined closed low right here. Fairly, not really negatively or positively tilted quite yet, but as the day goes on here, it's going to become negatively tilted. You can see all this flow is on the exit region, right over here in Wyoming. And as the day moves on, this will take on a much more negative tilt as we go further on. This is our main forcing for this whole system, but there is some more southern forcing here as well. Likely surface lows, or just basically cape here. There's slight dry line convergence. That's where you'll get your storms that might move on this way. Again, high cape here. This one's just simple enough, right? You can see it on the slight risk. It's just mainly driven by hail, and there is a slight 5% tornado risk that goes all the way down here, but most of this is a hail risk. You can see a few supercells that might form here. I'll take two soundings here, but I'm not gonna look too much at the Oklahoma area because it's basically just dryline convergence, right? So you have winds a little bit out of the east here, and the dry line somewhere around right in this vicinity. You can see it very well defined. So the convergence along this dry line means we got a few storms that move on to the east. Here's a sounding right down there in Texas. Lot 5,600 joules per kilogram of cape. That's so much cape. Very fat cape in that hail growth zone. Honestly, there's so much cape here, you're gonna get hail anyway. Very minimal low level shear here. You can see the curvature is there, but it's very small, and that's very good for hail. Same thing with this one, a little bit more curvature, so this is the more northern option. That's likely why they have this 5% that goes a little bit more north. Stronger here than it is down here. Here, this is more of an Oklahoma region. Again, still that high hail risk, very good cape. Again, cloud level is a little bit higher in the atmosphere for tornadoes in this case. Actually, in this sounding, it's a little more tornadic just because of the close temperature dew point spread. And this one, the temperature dew point spread is pretty far, so that could be more hail in this case. But either way, that 5% tornado risk is definitely warranted, and that hail is the main risk in this bottom sector. Other main issue is going to be in our Dakotas region and in our Nebraska region. So the enhanced risk is for this Nebraska region here, right? We go back to about 18Z here. You can see here's our surface low somewhere around here. There's a few centers of rotation. Maybe here, maybe here. There's a few little kinks in the flow here. But in general, we have pretty good southerly flow bringing in all this moist air. But not, and at the same time, also not too warm. Because if you have too warm air, then you get too high of temperature dew point spreads, and that kind of tampers any tornado risk. You also see here into the evening hours this dew point surge here, right? So I'll move back to the temperature that shows our wind barbs. Move on to the night, we get this cold front that sweeps through, defined right here. Here's our cold front right at 23Z, and this will move down this direction. This is going to force basically a line of storms, and they can be pretty powerful. Take a sounding right ahead of this thing, see if there's any shear with it. I'm also going to focus on this. What I think is the greatest tornado risk is going to be in this region here in the Dakotas. There's a lot of supercells that we'll be seeing, but I'll look at that in a second. Here's our sounding right ahead of our line of storms. You can see here, apart from this lower level shear, which could lead to some QLCS tornadoes, it's a lot of speed shear, right? So this is the 0 to 3, 1 kilometer, or sorry, 1 kilometer to 3 kilometer layer here. You're speeding up, even closer, 3 to 6, speeding up, 6 to 9, and just keeps speeding up as you go higher up in the atmosphere. That could lead to storms that move in front of each other, and you just end up with a line of storms that'll keep getting worse as the night goes on. Lastly, I want to look at the Dakotas region. That's going to be our main tornado risk, in my opinion. I might be wrong on this, but that's my look at it. I'll stay here for it. What we can see going on is you have this kind of surface low back here in the Wyoming, Montana, and South Dakota triple point area. You also kind of have this another kind of surface low right here. lots of forcing. What we kind of see is this occluded low and a normal low here. So you have plenty of forcing in this area, as well as a lot of kind of a surge in dew points according to the rat model. Here's what the NAM shows us as well, and the NAM does also show this pretty well. NAM shows a very slight increase in that dew points. The NAM NST not as much, but does show it a little bit again. That convergence of moisture right there. That's something to take into account. The rat model is probably the most extreme with it. The HRRR isn't showing anything as extreme either. But in all of these models here, we're seeing an increase in dew points along this whole vicinity. I'm gonna do these soundings for now. So our main forcing for this will be that dry line. It's not very well defined here. We have that cold front working its way in, and the dry line's our main forcing here. We also have a lot of forcing, remember, because this is basically the exit region of this 500 millibar trough right here. You'll have stronger flow aloft, and it also seems like a much stronger 850 millibar flow. That helps rotate your supercells, especially in those overnight hours. Right in this vicinity where all these storms are trying to fire, you have pretty strong 850 millibar flow. That's going to rotate your supercells, and a lot stronger flow aloft as well. That can really help force a lot of this air up. This is our first sounding. Not the best shear in the lower levels, but definitely supercellular in some sense. You have some shear, but the main issue is you have that jetting off of winds. Again, from 0 to 1, or sorry, 0 to 3 kilometer shear here. It's decent. It's pretty good. Look at Cape here as well. I want to see that for the whole region. Not super strong Cape, so maybe not a huge destabilization. I'll check the HRRR as well. HRRR shows more destabilization. The NAM also shows a little bit more destabilization. Although lot less time for that. Interesting to take into account there. These could be fighting quite a cap, but if they win, they could be seeing some pretty good Cape. Take one right in that little bullseye. I mean, this is a lot more Cape than originally saw. If you see MU Cape, definitely a little bit of a bullseye right there as well. I'll look at significant tornado parameter while we wait for that sounding. But you can see here, that's definitely our main risk. You can see it kind of jumps up there out of anywhere. There is some STP down here in the Texas area actually, but this doesn't seem to work very well with any modes, right? Maybe it's kind of weird to see STP blow up like that. I'm curious if there's anything specific going on in this region. I just don't see the forcing to be going with this. There's a little bit of convergence, I suppose. Yeah, so I guess the STP is coming off the charts just because of this felicity here, but not the. There's definitely the possibility of supercells in this Texas region, but the sounding isn't all that amazing because all this dry air right there. I'll go back to the. I got distracted. I'll go back to the Dakota area. Got our sounding here though. Meaning again, you have that shear and you have that jetting off of winds. Definitely a little bit better here as well. Better curvature in this lower levels as well as better jetting off of the winds. Look at the HRRR. We'll check. Sectors are annoying for this. Go to reflectivity here. So you can understand what we're looking at. Here is 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and 4 p.m. Central Time. Move on throughout the day. You can see right here after 4, move up again. The sector is an annoying spot. At 4 p.m. about, you see this destabilization right here. You can see all those storms start to fire, right? Right around the time where we get our, look at all that cape right there. That's where you get all that cumulus forming. That's where you start to get those storms that fire. So you get those storms, and you can kind of see kind of a clusters of supercells, very clustered, maybe multicellular mode even, but supercells could form in this environment, and definitely possible for any tornadoes during their environment, and that the temperature dew point spreads aren't that large. This is pretty close looking at our soundings. This is kind of like the environment they look into. Slight cap, but if they're broken through the cap, we don't care about that part. We have that cape, and we have that shear, as well as that jutting off of winds. So definitely kind of a lot of supercells possible right in this vicinity. I think is very interesting to take into account. Look at our central plains. You can see 0Z start to get that line of storms, and as this cold front starts to sweep through right here, there's our cold front. That's gonna kind of a Boeing line segment. You can see right where our enhanced risk is in that eastern Nebraska region. There's that Boeing line segment, and even that could even move on way into Iowa too, according to the HRRR. I don't know if the other models show this as well. The NAM shows this as well. There are 2 short range models we have. I guess I could check the HREF. Showing a few of the other ones. I'll check this in a second. Lastly, we'll look in the southern mode. What this is showing is just me it's more of a conditional risk. A few little supercells that could form. Maybe some tornadoes down here, maybe some large hail. You can see the Oklahoma region, much larger hail, but yeah, maybe a few supercells here, very discreet. So this is very conditional in the south here. You have that tornado risk, and you have that large hail risk, but that southern mode is much more conditional because the forcing is not nearly as strong. I mean, if we look at our 500 millibar level for the RAP model, there is some flow here, but there's not really a coincident surface low, or sorry, there's not really a low pressure down there that's really helping force, right? Northern mode, you have that strong 500 millibar level trough with strong flow. Down here, it's more 50 knots of flow. This more of a unidirectional flow, but up here you have a lot more, you know, better flow from the surface low. Excuse me, better flow from the big old trough up there. Texas is not as strong. Um, that's our main stuff for today. I'll look at day 3 and day 4. It's not as easy to look at because we don't have all the data for it. Oh, actually, I did forget to mention. One other reason I like the tornado risk better for the Dakotas is because if we look at our ensemble forecast here, right? Look at probability, but the chances for updraft helicity are much stronger in this Dakotas region. I like that. I like that a lot better, right? It does show 70% here for basically all of them. I'll keep the HRRR here. For all of them combined, that risk here definitely has that updraft helicity. But I think the discrete nature of these cells here. I mean, we have 70% chance here already. I believe that's the highest it can go because I don't think it can go to 100. You have 70% chance up there. Basically, pretty late into the night as well. Plenty of updraft helicity to be had right there. But that's why I kind of like this a lot better because it's a better environment for supercells, and a lot of these models are agreeing we're going to see updraft helicity and supercells forming there. So I like that a lot better personally. We'll look at, again, I did want to look at the reflectivity one more time before. That's HRRR, the different one. See those discrete supercells? I'll keep right at 0Z. A little more clustered in this case. Kind of see that destabilization. This one's a little bit more messy, but lots of more supercells kind of form. Again, it's somewhat conditional as well. I think the HRRR might be a little bit aggressive, but all of these models are showing that updraft helicity for this whole region. Again, it's going to matter a lot on storm mode, though. If these all, if they form in each other's ways and kind of tamper that tornado risk, and that's what happens. But if they're able to stay more discreet, they could see a much larger tornado risk as the night goes on. And here's that wind damage look. Basically everything's agreeing on that. Pretty good blowing line segment. I'm gonna check the overnight hours into Iowa. Some of these a little messed up a little bit, so less chance of that into Iowa. We could see that enhanced risk spread into Iowa overnight as well. Okay, now I want to look at that. Now that we're done with that, I did want to look at the day 3 and day 4. Look at the GEFS for this, because it's an ensemble. Then look at the GFS afterwards. So there's our trough that we have today. Tomorrow, fairly uneventful. That kind of moves on further, but the risk from that is going to be that remnant line of storms that could end up forcing some stuff. Nothing really too crazy tomorrow. Sunday, however, we see this. Actually, Saturday first of all, we do see this troughing in the west. And as Saturday goes on and all those storms go, Saturdays. Might be messing myself up here a little bit. Sorry. This is Thursday. I got my days mixed up here. Friday's risks are gonna be the remnant line of storms, right? So we have that line here in Iowa. That's gonna be a whole sweeping cold front that could force some stuff up, but likely only wind really. Maybe a few discrete supercells could be formed from that. On Friday, we're seeing that troughing here in the west, and on Saturday, we see that move into the United States and be very large amplitude, right? Again, you have that polar jet stream and the subtropical jet stream meeting up in this whole vicinity. That help with our forcing a lot too. Now we're looking at the GFS. One more second though. Look at the GFS continuing. On Sunday, we see that pretty big area of exit region for that trough right before Memorial Day. GFS model we'll look back on now. Here's our Saturday risk. Again, you can see a very large amplitude trough. That'll move east. Likely going to be coincident with a strong surface low because of how much forcing we have. Again, you can see that here. Already a 990 millibar surface low here somewhere over Kansas vicinity. Strong dryline convergence here. Definitely helping in that area. Right along that dry line, right in Oklahoma right here. So here's our dry line right here. somewhere around there. Let's see. Yeah, right about there. Dry line right about there, and we're getting more easterly components. I don't know if we don't have convergence on this GFS model. Lots of convergence along this dry line. That's where our storms will be going. We can see here the GFS does like cape here, maybe a little bit of capping, but plenty of cape to be had if the storms can really fire. And you can see our storm motion vectors here pretty much off this dry line pretty well. Fairly perpendicular, so more of a discrete mode possible. Look at the CONUS again. Going into Monday, we have much more destabilization. This might be more of a kind of like that moderate risk we had a bit back. Back here, surface low again. Let's see, we'll go back to all 50 states here. So there's our surface low right there over Missouri. Kind of a pretty nice warm sector again as well. 994 millibars, so maybe a weakening surface low at this point. Or strengthening. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes here. Possibly strengthening. Yeah, it's hard to tell with this surface low, but it'll be moving across the whole vicinity here. There's a very large warm sector here, open warm sector. Very good moisture being injected into this region. See it here, already 70 dew points on Saturday. A lot of this because of the fact that this cold front won't sweep out enough of the moisture. We've had a lot of moisture building up for the past few days. Saturday, that moisture is already going to be building up right back in the United States again. Sunday here, again, strong moisture. Even into 18C 1 p.m. I can't go too in depth into the specifics here, but there's a lot more cape on Sunday, and it's probably the bigger risk day. Also, the SPC didn't forecast the enhanced until today, so we could see this enhanced risk maybe even grow for day 4. Supercell composite, just because we can't see much for that specifics, but we do have that supercell composite for the most part. EFS might be able to help with this. This is a probability of cape above 1,000 joules per kilogram. You can see here, very large area of strong cape. That's definitely nice to see. That's not helpful. I mean, supercell composite as well. Supercell is definitely possible early on, even into the overnight hours as well. Definitely impressive stuff for this trough here. So hopefully I'll be able to get another video out. Maybe on Sunday. I do still have life to work on, but I do have more time to work on this channel. Hopefully I'll be able to get a video out about this day 3 and day 4, Saturday, Sunday stuff. But that's for the most part what we're looking at today. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and please stay posted on my channel for community posts. I am going to be probably updating one tomorrow for this day 2 in case anything changes.